Most teachers don't quit because they're bad at teaching. They quit because nobody told them what this job actually takes. Today, I'm sharing 10 brutally honest truths that I wish someone had told me from the start. Welcome back to Educator University. I'm Annie. Let's get into it. The first brutally honest lesson is that you need to teach bad lessons to become a great teacher. If you give yourself the grace to realize that not every lesson is going to be out of the park, not every lesson is going to be a masterpiece, and sometimes what you expect will happen and what happens are two different things depending on the day, the class, the moment, all the pieces of the puzzle that you may have not even a lot of control over. No matter how long you've been teaching, there's going to be days or students that just take the lesson to a place you did not expect it to go. So by allowing yourself to say there's going to be lessons that are going to be bad, it just releases so much pressure and hopefully so much emotional strain. Teaching bad lessons also gives you permission to say, I'm going to try new things. My second honest lesson is that not every student will like you or your subject, and that is totally normal. Students are humans just like you and me, and they have preferences, and they're allowed to feel however they feel. As long as they're not being rude or inconsiderate, certain students are going to really jive with what you're talking about, whether it's subject matter or your personality or the way you bring teaching to life, and other students, maybe not so much. It's really a sliding scale. Don't feel like you're doing something wrong if not every student likes you or what you're teaching. Knowing that there's a good chance that not every student's going to like you or your subject helps you just to relax and not stress about it. I've also had students who say they don't like something, and then after a couple of weeks, maybe they do. So, you never know, but also it's not your responsibility to make a student like you or your material. It's your responsibility to be a great teacher and to make things as fun and exciting and relevant as possible, but that student may just not want to engage. So at some level, they have to just make the decision for themselves. The third honest truth is to not take things personally. And this ties right into the idea that not everyone's going to like you, because students and even adults in the building are going to say things to you, and it's easy to take it to heart. I've had students talk about my personal appearance, my makeup, my clothing, the way I walk, the boots I wear, literally everything about my person. Some of it's positive, some of it's not so positive, some of it's in between. You have to take everything with a grain of salt because they're students and they're just observing you. Depending on the comment, you can decide if it's something that needs to be addressed in a more serious way or if it's something that they're just mentioning. Sometimes, especially with the littler ones, they just say things because they observe you. They just notice you. I remember many years ago when I was in my practicum, back in the 2010s, we had this style that was called like a baby doll style, which is like when your dress kind of came right underneath your like chest and then it popped up a little bit. And I had bought this very trendy that I thought, now it's probably very out of style, but back then I thought it was a trendy dress and it had a little bit of poof kind of by my belly. And I remember I went to do practicum and I hope I can find this dress somewhere. I should picture. And I remember one of the first graders saying, "Oh, are you pregnant?" And I was like, wow. I'm like, nope, I'm not pregnant. You want to be like, okay, wow, maybe I won't wear that dress again. You know what I mean? Maybe that wasn't such a good style. But honestly, this is just an example of how you can't take it personal. Who knows if that child had just had a sibling born or somebody else was pregnant that she knew. But what I'm trying to say is that you just can't take that personally because, like I said, students will be students. If you can do your best to not take things personally, this will greatly help relieve some of your stress. Easier said than done, but at least now you know you should do it. The fourth lesson that you need to know is to not work for free. I know you want to. I know, especially if you're a teacher, you're thinking, I want to help, I want to volunteer. I'm telling you right now, do not work for free. We as a profession need to say our time is valuable and we deserve to get paid for our time. So what does that mean? That means you don't do work unless you're paid for it. I don't know how else to say this. Unless it's something that you really want to do. Like let's say there's a club you really want to start and they don't have the funds for it, but you just want to do it because it's like your passion project. Okay, go for it. Do you, but I'm just saying, unless they're paying you, do not do it. Because here's what comes down to. Money indicates value. If they value something, they will give you the money to do that. If they don't value it, they will not give you the money to do it. So if you work for free, you're saying that you don't value your time. You're not giving yourself the value that you deserve. And a big part of not working for free is only working in your contract hours. And I know for some of you listening that sounds crazy, but I'm saying that that is what you're being paid to do. So maybe try your best to use that time so that you're not working for free, because every hour you work out of contract, you are literally working for free. You are volunteering that time because they're not paying you for it. And this moves us right into the fifth fifth honest truth, which is have good boundaries. And by having good boundaries, you will for sure not give your time away for free. But having good boundaries isn't just about time, it's about creating an emotional space for yourself that is safe and secure. So part of having great boundaries is knowing how to communicate and say, this is my job, this is not my job, and doing it in a professional way. So if you need more information about that, I have a whole video I will link right here on how to communicate professional boundaries and why it's so important to make sure that you are not burning out. The problem is if you don't have boundaries, people will put more jobs on you, but not give you more pay or time to do them. So it's really important for you to say, this is my job, this is what I'm doing. And if someone tries to put additional work on you, to say, well, what are you going to be taking off my plate? Because this is already a full-time job. Teaching itself is a full-time job. And so we need to keep boundaries that anything outside of that job needs to be compensated or be able to say no. By creating and keeping strong boundaries, you create space for yourself and allow this career to be sustainable. The sixth honest truth, and it ties right into the last one, is that not every job is worth staying for. And that's part of the boundaries. If you're in a position or a school that's constantly pressing your boundaries, even when you say no, even when you make it clear, then you may need to think about shifting and changing where you're at. I have an entire podcast about toxic schools with a work expert, and I'm going to link that right here. This podcast really helps you to see if you're in a toxic school and gives you ways to survive and thrive. But eventually, you might want to think about moving on. The nice thing is there are so many jobs in teaching all over the place. You might want to think about moving into a different school, position, or even grade level. And this takes us right into number 6, which is that your career path may have many directions. Sometimes we go into teaching thinking, I'm going to teach 4th grade for my whole career and I'm never going to change and I'm going to be in this school in this area for the rest of my life. And if that's you, that works out great. But for many teachers that I've talked to, learning what you like the best takes a little time. You might start out in one grade and realize you actually prefer another. You might start out in one school and realize you might prefer another. You might start out in one subject and want to do another. I personally experienced this the last couple of years. I changed from teaching ESL, language arts, to teaching foods, home ec class. So different, but it brought new life and it brought new excitement to my teaching. So you might not know even in the next couple of years what it looks like to teach something different. And I really would challenge you to think outside the box. Just because you don't have an endorsement, especially when it comes to teaching different subjects in middle school and high school, just because you don't have an endorsement, it's not as hard as you think to get one. You could even think about, is there something I want to teach that maybe I could get the endorsement as I teach? And that way you could apply for more jobs than you even think are possible. And as you're applying for positions, you could think about your real world experience, not just the endorsements you have that would help you apply. For example, for me, cooking is something that I've done for years on my own. It was very easy for me to move into this position because I've spent years learning how to cook and even teaching others how to cook before I got into the classroom. So I had brought that into the interview and I brought that into my experience when I was applying. So you might have experience outside the classroom that you can bring to apply to a new position. I've also had colleagues that have moved outside of the classroom who have used their teaching abilities in other ways. So you don't know what your career is going to look like. So just be open to the fact that you need to do what's right for you and just take it one step at a time and be open to the different options that are available to you. I think one of the best examples of this is a podcast I did. I will link it here. It was with Joe, someone from my school who recently changed from teaching social studies to teaching woodshop, something on the other end of the spectrum. And he talks about his experience, how he got that opportunity. He actually advocated for it. I think that's something that as you're thinking about changing your career, you may not realize in your own school, maybe you could start a program, because in his case, he actually reignited a program that had been dormant. So there might be programs that you could start or reignite within your school. So you can be really creative when it comes to your career and future in teaching. All right, let's move on to number 8. And that is that professional development should serve you. Sometimes you go to PD and there's a lot being said and the person talking is very passionate about it. And it can feel like you need to get on board with what is being said. But I like to think of PD as kind of like a buffet, like take what you want, leave what you don't. Unless the principal is saying, I'm going to check on this and be giving you kind of an assessment on this, the rest is kind of a suggestion. Now, let me clarify. Policies are policies. So like read the policy book, read your school and student handbook, read the policies. But PDs are what they are, okay? As a teacher who's been doing this for a while, I find that PDs at times kind of recycle themselves. So like what I heard 10 years ago, I'm hearing now, but with a different acronym. So some of it's good, some of it's interesting, some of it's fine, some of it's kind of not relevant to me. Some of it makes no sense to what I'm doing. Make sure you're following policy, but when it comes to just recommendations on how to do teaching, I like the buffet style. Take what you like, leave what you don't. And that way you're not leaving feeling stressed or overwhelmed with more expectations than you can handle. Because sometimes people have great ideas, but they don't always have the tools or funds to implement them. It's not your responsibility to put it through unless they give you the time and resources to do it well. Number 9 is administrators can be a great resource, but especially if you're a new teacher, take feedback from other places too. This is really important as a new teacher because sometimes you're getting feedback that may be challenging to hear. So if you're finding that you're struggling your first year, one thing you can ask your admin is, hey, is there someone in the building who I can get some support from? Many schools have some kind of mentoring system that they can help you as a new teacher, and then you can get some more feedback. Somebody who is mentoring you can give you a lot more feedback, and that gives you a better chance to improve. It's like taking a test, right? If you only have one chance for a test, it's a lot of pressure and it's a lot of stress. But if you have more opportunities for learning and growth and feedback, that will greatly improve your teaching. Number 10 is that burnout is real. Self-care isn't optional, it is mandatory. The word self-care can have a lot of things wrapped up in it, but after I did the podcast with Laurel, I'll link right here, about burnout and how to avoid it, I realized that self-care is really just about living a vibrant, beautiful life outside of teaching. And that's what all these 10 truths are really coming down to. Creating a teacher life that is balanced, one where you feel like you go to your work, you do your job, you're professional, and you enjoy working with students, but you come home, you relax, you have a hobby, you have relationships, you have a beautiful, vibrant life both in and out of school. And that is what I think keeps burnout at bay. Easier said than done, I know from personal experience, but I will say if I had known these from the beginning, I think I would have saved myself a lot of stress. Let me know in the comments which honest truth stood out to you, and let's keep this conversation going. And if you want to check out those podcasts I mentioned, I'll link them right here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.